Let's see, Dottie's on and Orla's here, Amy's here. All right. Melinda's here. Great. And Jim did say that he wasn't going to be joining us. He and his wife have this RV and they're going to do some cross-country driving and check out some really good sites. And he told me that on the night of the referendum that the budget passed, and he had this certain glow about him. And I said, well, have a great time. Send pictures.
Nice.
All right, so it's 7:03 and we'll call this meeting to order. The record will show that 5 of us are here. That's Rhonda, Rob Mann, Steve, Rob Words, and myself. We'll approve minutes of April 15, 2021 regular monthly meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Rhonda has the motion. Is there a second?
Rob Mann, I'll second it.
Rob Mann has the second. Any changes to these minutes? Any changes? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minute as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, so this passes 5-0. Correspondence, there's none listed on the agenda. Is there any let's see. Melinda, there was the correspondence that you sent to me that I forwarded out to members of the Board of Finance. And I think I copied Dottie on it, and that probably came after this agenda was posted. So we can just add that to the minutes for this meeting when they come around.
I think we also had the audit bids Orla sent to us.
So audit bids and then correspondence from the superintendent.
I should say bids and summary. She did a summary.
What's that?
She did a summary of the bids as well as the bids themselves.
Yeah. Any other correspondence?
Orla did send a copy of that chart that she put out before the referendum. I don't know if that would be considered correspondence.
Sure, we can call that correspondence. Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to citizens' comments. Any citizen who has a comment at this time? Any citizen have a comment at this time? All right, hearing none. Move on to Selectmen's update. First Selectman, Amy Sainage. Welcome, Amy.
Hey everyone. So I'm going to backpedal to probably even before the last meeting with an update that I had neglected to give to all of you on the Langer Pond boundary survey that you had approved some funding for. At this time, it's partially completed. The boundary looks to be shared with the new owners of 1495 Wilsonville Road. So the boundary cuts into their property, so they're partial owners. So all those logistics have to be worked out in greater detail. Dennis Blanchett said that they'd be able to complete that boundary survey once the flow levels were lower, midsummer, mid to late summer. So just wanted to give you an update that work had begun. Additionally, the North Grosvenor Pond Dam, I believe that we had brought that to the board's attention, that there were some issues, obviously some major concerns with the dam potentially breaching. The dam is currently owned by Centerville Bank, formerly was owned by Putnam Bank. Centerville took it over when Putnam Bank was bought out by Centerville. It was news to them. They didn't realize that they actually had acquired a dam at the same time, but they are being very diligent and they are making some plans to make repairs to the dam. Currently, what they provided for us and what we were looking for was an emergency action plan, and that has been filed with Department of Environmental Energy Protection, DEP. It has been filed with them, and we've received a copy of that at Town Hall as well. So that's good news. They've been very proactive for something that kind of took them by surprise. They're really taking it by the horns and really making sure that they bring it up to the code that it needs to be at. Additionally, on April 27th, a lot of you, it's kind of old news now, but Vermont Bread Company closed its doors. Vermont Bread Company was the parent company of Superior Bakery. They abruptly closed doors. However, there is a baking company, it's called East Baking Company, that is trying to work to acquire Superior Bakery and rehire the staff. They were running into some issues with banking. They were looking for something from the state of Connecticut. And here's the sad part, is that the state of Connecticut had nothing to offer them but training programs. They didn't need training programs. They needed maybe some type of tax incentive or something that could have helped them get back up and running. So I have made contact with Rick Hayes, Mayflexer. I don't know, we haven't gotten too far at this point, but I'll be following up with them with the owner, Jeff, in the next few weeks to just see if he's made any progress. Oh, and another thing, just so that if anybody was wondering, the loss to the town is $27,000. So it's not an astronomical amount of money, but every little bit helps. So that's where the tax loss will be, with them closing their doors completely.
Amy, could you tell me how many jobs were affected? I don't mean to interrupt, but
90, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember now. I believe it was 94 jobs.
so I think the law says did you get notified a few weeks ahead? I think there's a.
Nope, I got notified the morning of, the night of, when they made the announcement.
Because I think it's been a while, but I think there's a law that requires
Yes.
several week notification. You're already aware of that? No, it's enough said.
Well, they cited it that they just had to notify myself and the Department of Labor at the time of the closing.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
that would be interesting to know whether I would think that the Department of Labor would call them out on it.
I believe there was a law that required advance notification of like a couple of weeks or maybe even more for closures that affect more than 75 people. But I'm not a student of that particular law or anything. I just recall that vaguely from the past.
Rob Word here. I think Steve's right. It's a percentage of the workforce. And when there's a RIF of that magnitude, it needs to be reported. Amy, another question on the 27,000, is that in the building itself, or is that taxes on the assets inside the building, or both?
The building itself and the real estate, some of the equipment, but not all of it, because they were a manufacturer.
Right.
And I believe as a manufacturer, especially of food products, if I understood it correctly from Paul, our assessor, they're tax exempt.
Right.
They have about $2 million worth of equipment that cannot be taxed because of the nature of the business.
Right. So the property itself would still remain a tax liability for someone who owns it. And
Correct. And I'm sure we haven't lost it completely. I believe the company will still potentially make good on it.
Right. But the
in order
jobs
to
are
keep things
jobs are the biggest thing at 90 jobs.
Right.
Is there anything we can do on a town level to help support whoever may come in, to help incentivize whoever may come in? That's a lot of jobs in a small town.
Have a suggestion?
Say again?
All I know is we made calls to the state. We've made calls to DECD, inquiring. We made calls to the small business section of DECD to try to get some type of assistance. And the best they could muster was the training program. That was what was being offered currently.
I guess I'd consider something as a town too. I mean, if it's 27,000 and you do 80, 20, 40, 60, 80 over a 5-year period, I mean, something to be creative. If that's enough, if we don't have to, don't do it. But if it's something that would help tip the scales,
Well, and I'm wondering if it'll fall under we might have to, it might be some type of statute that it would fall under to give them that type of incentive. I'm certainly, you know what, I'll make a note and maybe I'll contact our attorney and see if they know of anything because I'm sure that there's a procedure to go through to grant that type of
Right.
tax credit. But I'm happy to look into that. All right. Any other questions on that topic? Okay, so then just a couple more things. WMC was awarded both the under 20-foot bridge inspections to be performed this summer. They were also awarded the preliminary design work for the Buckley Hill Road bridges. So that will get underway as soon as the new budget is in place. Rich has started work on Quadic Road. That's his big project this year. Again, a $725,000 road rebuild. This past week, they've been rebuilding the culverts. They were doing a total of 12 of them. The work to begin grinding the road is the first or the second week in June, so June 7th, that is supposed to begin. And that's pretty much all I have for you tonight.
Any questions for the first selectman? Amy, I got a question.
Mhm.
How's the new dog doing?
We are in North Carolina right now, and the dog is with my son.
So, all right.
Missing her terribly, but she's an amazing dog.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's taking good care of her.
Yeah, I told him send lots of pictures, and I have a box going to the dog from Chewy with some gifts while we're gone.
Fantastic. Love it. Any other questions? All right.
I said maybe add in some Zoom videos, Amy.
All right, we'll move on to school district update with Superintendent of Schools, Melinda Smith. Welcome, Melinda.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Good evening, everyone. So our enrollment at Thompson Public Schools currently is at 946 students. We have 411 students at Mary R. Fisher. That's an increase of 4 students over last month. 301 students at Thompson Middle School. That is an increase of 2 students. And 234 students, which is a reduction of 2 students at Turtle Up Memorial High School. As far as distant learners, students that are currently still learning from home, we have 113 students learning from home, 39 at Mary R. Fisher, 27 at Thompson Middle School, and 47 at Turtle Up Memorial High School. At the last meeting last month, the Board of Education voted that for the upcoming school year, remote learning will not be an option for our students, that all students will return on-site for instruction. We have some wonderful events coming up. Award and Scholarship Night is happening on June 7th. Our moving up ceremony at Thompson Middle School is happening on June 8th with a rain date of June 9th. And graduation is June 11th with a rain date of June 12th. All of those events are going to be held outdoors. We have been working on our summer programs, and our extended school year program for special education students will run July 6th through August 6th. Our Jumpstart program, which is for all levels, elementary, middle, and high, is running from August 9th to August 19th. And for our elementary students, we have developed a partnership with our rec department. And thanks to some grant funding, the afternoon for elementary students, they will be able to segue into our rec department camp program free of charge. So we're pretty excited to be able to offer that to families. And it's especially helpful for those families who work. We have also developed a new intercession model, which is going to happen the first 2 weeks of school. That program is being developed for students who need remediation and some credit recovery, giving them a leg up in case they are failing some courses. We're also going to have the ability at the middle and high school level to offer courses that we don't typically are able to offer during the school year. So the teachers are busy right now developing the curriculum for those classes, and they will carry a half credit. So high school students and our students in 7th and 8th grade from the middle school can actually take some high school classes and earn credit for that. So we're very excited about that. And then of course, additional enrichment opportunities that we're going to bring in during that intercession model, which will include some dance, some martial arts, some robotics. So we're really excited about that intercession model coming up. I'm in the process now of working with the teachers and guidance at the high school to be adding some new classes. They may entail drama, We have been accepted, and it's very exciting, in Stephen Van Zant's Teach Rock program. We were one of 14 districts selected to participate in that program. So we will be offering a class that's integrating rock and roll and history. And we're following the curriculum that was developed and supported by Stephen Van Zant. We had a webinar, and I was able to meet him through a webinar this week. So it's pretty exciting. There's more to come. We are working on our American Rescue Plan funding and programs that are associated with that, with the specific criteria. And I think the chairman mentioned that I sent some correspondence to the Board of Finance. I wanted you folks to see that those funds are really restricted, and there's really specified guidance. I had to sign off on an assurance form this week that specifically details that I will ensure that the district will comply with those regulations, which I happily signed because we certainly want those funds. And that's my report.
Thank you, Melinda. Any questions for the superintendent? Any questions? Anything? Melinda, I assume that the 113 who are learning from home, that's included in the 946, right?
They're considered enrolled.
Yeah. That's fine. All right, anything else? Anyone? All right, we'll move on to financial report with Finance Director Orla McKiernan-Raftery. Welcome, Orla.
Thank you, Aaron. So we're reviewing the reports through the end of April today. Property taxes 17.155. If you break it down, current taxes are 267 higher than last year. We're finally starting to catch up. Prior taxes are higher, as are interest and liens. The one we're down on, which we know about already, is motor vehicle supplements. It's down by 64 versus last year. You know, we'll be playing catch up with that in fiscal 22. On the state grants, we got ECS money in, which also included some excess cost money, special education money, which got reimbursed to the Board of Ed. On the local revenue, we're 1.059, and we're 278 higher than last year. 225 is regarding the Turtle Lot Trust difference. We had some declines in interest income and preschool tuition because there was so many changes with regards to COVID and at the school level that resulted in the decline in preschool tuition. We're continuing to see the increases in town clerk fees, permits, conveyance, building fees, and transfer station permits for the year. On expenses, we're committed of 6.731. Balance sheet, we're increased cash by 1.07 or 1.704, and we're higher than last year by 257. We've no changes to surplus. Currently, surplus is still at 7.9% of our current year's budget. Any questions on revenue or expenses? I will be, just so you know, after I sent out the report, I took a look at some of the estimates. So when I give you the report through the end of May, we're going to have more realistic estimates. And that's something I'm going to continue doing into the fiscal year 22. As you know, it's hard obviously to predict, but starting at the end of the first quarter for fiscal 2022, I'm going to start putting in estimates for the year. It's only ballpark, but it's something that we can continue to monitor throughout the budget season and through the end of the fiscal year. Any questions? No. Okay.
Did we
go ahead, Steve.
Did we do the vehicle financing that we talked about at the budget, or will that be happening in July or later?
So in relation, this is the vehicle financing that we looked at for fiscal 22, or the refinancing of the existing loans?
Yes, both actually.
Oh, both. Okay. Actually, I did forget to email you guys because I'm sorry, that was an oversight on my part. So I went back to the refinancing, and because of the timing of the loans, we were actually going to end up paying more money. We were going to have a lower interest rate, but we were going to end up paying more money over the period of the loans. So I chose not to go down the road of refinancing for the existing loans. Now, with regards to the fiscal 22 loan, as soon as the budget passed this week, I did reach out to the leasing company because I wanted to see if I could secure the rate that he had proposed, which is approximately a little bit under 4%. So the plan is to continue to lock in that interest rate, but we won't close on the loan until after July 1st for the roll-off truck.
Just a little comment, did a little personal vehicle financing, and I got better than 3%. So I'm a little surprised to hear that we're paying 4. I think the
So it's a
the
little
town's
bit
credit rating ought to be better than mine.
It's a little bit under 4. So, well, I will go back and see if there's any way we can do any better than that. But that was this week. I know he did mention that rates are starting to climb. So I'm not sure when you were able to secure that personally, maybe in the last few weeks, or was it this week?
A couple weeks
or-
ago. Maybe
okay.
2 weeks ago, maybe 3.
Yeah, he did say that the interest rates are starting to climb. So, but before we secure anything, I'll make sure that we can see if we can get a better rate. But I'll get the lowest we can. The next thing we'll be talking about is the audits, which is the next part of the budget. So,
I think that's under new business.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Orla?
That's it. That's it for me today.
Any more questions for the finance director? Any more questions for the finance director? All right, Turtle Lot Fund update. I don't know if there's anything to declare on that.
Not a lot. I'm not sure who's on the meeting. Let me just see. Wasn't sure whether Tommy Angelo or Kathleen were on the meeting or not. So the only thing I can say is we're moving forward with the next phase of the Windows project. We did have a meeting. Oh my gosh, maybe some of the other members will be able to help me on that because I didn't prepare anything for regards to the Turtle Lot Trust. We're certainly in the last few weeks. The windows are already in-house, so the procedures and the process of installing the windows will be happening, if not before this school year ends. Start as soon as the school year ends. I'm working that project along with the school roof project over the summer. There has been discussions with 65 Main with the EDC with regards to 65 Main, and there was some ongoing conversations there. And I can't remember anything else specific. Any of the other members? I see Melinda there, Rob Ward.
The only other item, sorry, Melinda, the only other item I can recall, Orla, is there was a bit of an overrun on the windows we approved. The cost, the additional cost.
That's right. So one of the things that was not taken into account in phase 2 of the windows was the requirement to be billed for prevailing wage. Which was done in the first phase, and per attorney's directions, we're required to pay prevailing wage for this project. So there was an overrun, and there was a change order in phase 2 with regards to accounting for those particular dollars. And I don't remember the specifics of how much it is, but I think it was about 60 or 70,000.
70, yeah, I recall 71, around 70. Yeah. I think Melinda was going to jump in and I cut her off. Sorry, Melinda.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to give a little bit more update on the window project. It's actually started. They have been working in Rascavage Auditorium. They've removed the windows and have taken them back to the shop to restore the transom on top. And they are scheduled to actually come out and some work was done during April vacation. And they are scheduled to do most of that work this summer. So.
That's great, thank you. Any questions about the Turtle Lot Fund update from anyone? Any questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on to new business. The first item is auditing services. Orla, are we supposed to vote on the auditing services for the coming year?
So we met with the Board of Selectmen the other night to go through the requirements. So if I understand correctly, there will be a discussion among the Board of Finance tonight and a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, who are meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 to appoint a specific auditor. And this contract will be adopted by the Board of Selectmen tomorrow morning at 8:30. So it starts with discussion. And if you wish, I can share that summary sheet that I sent out to everybody.
That'd be great.
Amy, would you be able to give me the option to share?
I'm going to do that right now.
Awesome.
Okay, it should be good to go.
Okay, now, is it really tiny?
Not bad.
Okay, that might be better, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so if you like, I can just go through this in brief. So we received 3 bids. One was from the firm that we had in the prior year, fiscal 20. Another was from Hoyt, Filippetti and Malloran out of Mystic, Connecticut. And the other was from another firm called Markham, who I have no, I'm not familiar with the firm at all. I know Bob and I have experience with Hoyt, Filippetti and Malloran, and we all have experience now with King and Associates. So if we took a look, we did ask for them to be broken down by the 3 different entities. So I'll just briefly go through some of what I'm looking at here. Sorry. Okay, so on the town side, the 3 pricing came in at for year 1, 24.5 and 25. Year 1, Hoyt, Filippetti and Malloran 24.5. King 25, which is a little bit less than what we paid for fiscal 20. If you see fiscal 20, we paid 28,200. So we're coming in at 25 with the slight increase in year 2 and year 3. Markham LLP substantially higher. Then on the Board of Ed side, 22 from Hoyt, Filippetti, 20 from King, a slight about $1,200 higher than fiscal 20. And Markham higher altogether. And then WPCA, Hoyt, Filippetti 3.5, King 4.9, a little bit less than what we paid for fiscal 20, and surprisingly lower of 2,000 for Markham. So the bottom line, I'm going to swing over here to the right. Okay, so our top pricing is this. So year 1, Hoyt, Filippetti 50. For the overall cost of 3 entities, 49.9. So there's $100 difference between Hoyt, Filippetti and the existing firm that we had for fiscal 20, and then $6,000 higher for Markham. So that's pretty much it. Has anybody any questions about that?
I might ask both you and Bob to, if you wouldn't mind, the numbers are pretty clear. It looks like Hoyt's a little bit better over the 3-year period, but not substantially. So I wondered if you and Bob would just give us your thoughts about how the firms are valued in your eyes.
Okay, Bob, do you want to go first?
Sure. I have the town I came from before I came here. I worked with Hoyt. They're good folks. They're fairly easy to work with. They're consistent, and they've done a nice job. King, we worked with them last year. Last fiscal year. Easy to work with. They are, thorough. It's kind of interesting because this is the 3rd different auditing company that I've worked with, and they all actually 4th. And they all ask for different stuff. So, they were, timely. I didn't feel like they were wasting any time. They were, they came when they said they were going to come. They worked within the hours that they said they were going to work, and it was great to work with them. So, if all things being equal, as much as I liked Hoyt, working with them in my last town, King and Associate, came together at a very short period of time and executed the contract.
So I had a similar experience. My previous position at NDDH, we used Hoyt, and I worked with them for 5 or 6 years. Again, similar to to Bob, very easy to work with, predictable, same people every time, not a high turnover of staff, small firm, but no, I've never had any issues along the way with Hoyt. King and King Associates, I found them great to work with. I found, again, very thorough. I think some of the things that they did ask in all the years we had Blum Shapiro, they never asked. And right down to, you know, something as simple as, you know, I think it came up as one of the subjects regarding fixed assets. So it's never a priority for me to run the fixed assets. It's a hindrance because it's not part of the cash basis accounting. We only do it so we can record a depreciation dollar for the audit report. So it's usually way down the priority list for me, as is actually disposing of the assets within the system. So they brought it to my attention that we should do that. Yes, it's plain old accounting rules, but not once did Blum ever ask me to do it or ever even suggest that we do it. And it's common sense. So that was just an example of, I was pleasantly surprised to hear that. Again, you know, they achieved their goals. They told us that they would submit an audit report by the end of February, and that's what they did. Now, I know it was crunch at the end, but they were willing to crunch. I can't help but feel that if we had gone back to the previous firm, they would not have gone the extra mile to make sure that they filed that report on time. So it's half a dozen of the other, either firm I would work directly with. The fact that we already went to King and King, so we wouldn't have that transition because they've already established our systems. They work with us. They have already set up the necessary requirements that you have to in year one. So, you know, as much as I love Hoyt and I know all the partners well, I probably would be gearing more towards King and King.
Are we, if I might ask another question, are we, is this a request for the 3-year period or just for the 1 year?
The 3 years.
So
I don't want to have to do this again next year.
Okay, so for the 3 years, Hoyt's a little less expensive.
Mm-hmm. They are. So I guess it depends what, it's going to be up to you guys, but you know, as I say, that's my opinion. It's $700. You know, if you go year one, it's 100. Year two, it's 950. 750 year three. We'll be saving a couple of grand. You know, either way, I'm sure we'd have a great experience with either firm.
Thank you very much, both of you, for the input. Aaron, if I might just continue for a second.
Go ahead.
Given that both of these firms seem to be well qualified, both seem to have done this kind of work for multiple municipalities, both seem very capable and will do the job and meet the requirements of the RFP. You know, I kind of think that the less expensive one would be the one I would pick, even though I hear a little, you know, you're a little bit more comfortable with King and King, and I appreciate that you've worked with them, and there is a transition required if you ever change. But I think, again, because Hoyt's a little less expensive, I would tend to go that way. And I'm happy to hear from you that if I heard it right, that it's not that they're bad, you're just familiar with King a little bit more because they were here this past year. But again, that's just my thought. If you'd like, Aaron, I'll make a motion that we select or recommend the Hoyt bid because it's a little less expensive over the 3-year period.
I want to know.
Sorry, I was muted. Did you feel that King and King was more thorough than Hoyt? I guess that's a simple question. Before we go into too many motions, did you feel King and King was more thorough than Hoyt? I mean, I know we're talking about a small difference in money, but I guess that's the most important thing is who was more thorough if you're talking about $700.
Well, Bob dealt with them on a town perspective, so he should really answer that question more than me.
The town that I worked for and that hired them, it was their first town that they ever had. So they were pretty thorough because it was the first one they ever had. They had done, you know, organizations, nonprofits and stuff like that, you know, like Orla worked for. But you know, the only thing, I mean, again, and they had some bumps because it was their first time and with my audit in particular, the school district's audit in particular, there was a new, they switched from, the state reporting switched from EDO 01 to EFS. And it was a major change in the way the state does reporting for boards of education. And they struggled because nobody in the state had any expertise on it. And they kind of struggled with that. But they were available. I mean, I worked with them on, I took over a pretty bad set of books and I worked with them on Saturday mornings and on Sundays to get some stuff straightened out. And, they were very, very accommodating. As far as thoroughness, I mean, King's been in the game for a while and they're pretty darn thorough. And they asked me for things that I wondered why I never got asked for before, including Hoyt. And thought, yeah, I should have been asked for this kind of stuff all along.
So in my experience, they were very thorough, but it was a government agency. It was a nonprofit agency. I worked for the health department, so we had a much smaller budget. It was a much shorter audit. Everything was done within 2 days. So, but they were consistent because I did work with them for 5 years and they were consistent every year. So that was my experience.
Yeah, Rob, man, my concern was just that $700 is not a huge significant amount of money if they find things that in the long run save us $700. I guess that's what it comes down to, in my opinion.
It's actually 1,550 difference over the 3 years.
Yes, total.
Rob Wirch, can I jump in, Aaron?
Yeah, go ahead.
My viewpoint's a little different, Steve. I hear where you're going. I guess when I look at it, the first data point is that King did hit their quote in FY20. There could have been an opportunity for them to go over cost with additional hours, and they hit their quote. So that tells me there's a high likelihood they'll continue to hit their numbers in the outer years. And the second is there's an opportunity cost of moving to another firm in terms of getting them up to speed. And that's time that Orla, Bob, and others have to spend at least in that year one with the firm. And that I got to believe that's more than $700. So we're talking about less than 0.5% in the overall 3-year horizon. It seems to me that going with a known entity, someone we're happy with, would be worth that additional offset.
If I might ask a question on the WPCA cost, does that get paid for by the Water Pollution Control Authority or?
Yes, it
by
does.
the town?
Yes, it's included in their budget.
So those costs are actually borne by WPCA, not by us, for lack of a better term.
Correct.
And in
That's
that
correct.
way, actually, I look at it, it's a little less expensive for the town and the school because the King and King of the total bill, a bigger share goes to WPCA.
It does.
So it's actually cheaper for the town and Board of Ed. The King quote, is my analysis right?
Yes, that's correct.
I guess the perspective that I would add to what's already been shared, which are all great points, is that King and King came to us when we had nobody. We were in a lot of trouble, and they flew in and they took the job, and they kind of saved us. And I know that we need to review these budgets, in a vacuum. We can't take previous experience into consideration if we have two really good auditing firms. But I guess the sort of the political animal in me just can't help but sort of take into consideration the fact that if somebody comes in and helps you out when you got nobody, that's in my mind, that gets them some points when it comes time for them to stand up against, to go through a bidding process and stand up against the competition. I try to. So I guess, for example, I use Hometown Heating for my oil and my service because they've saved me before. So I have no reason to ever leave those guys. So I guess that's kind of the same perspective I bring to this, which is, if somebody takes good care of you, I'm willing to throw some points their way when it comes time for me to decide where I'm going to send my business in the future.
I'd like to add to that. I agree with everybody, and I think that what Rob said too, the fact that they stuck to their original numbers is important. And it shows that, they should have that continuity in the future. And also, the relationship that we already have, the ease of not having to transfer to another firm. It just sounds like for the money, it sounds like the best fit. And in addition to that, they asked for things that the other firms hadn't asked for based on prior experience. So I think that they're hitting a home run.
Yeah, so Rob Mann, Board of Finance. So my opinion is I think we should go with King and King. From the things that Aaron said, loyalty basically, and the things they asked for that other people didn't ask for, that tells me they have more experience in the game than other companies. I know that they said, Bob said the other company had just started out doing municipal Board of Ed budgets at that time, the other company, Hoyt. And my opinion is just we should go with King.
Just if I might ask, does WPCA get a voice in this since they're the one footing that portion of the bill?
I did share with the chair that we would be going out to RFP, and I let him know which auditing firm we would choose in the end. And that was sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Orla, one question. Do they have that amount of money in the budget?
Yeah, they haven't done their budget for next year yet, so their budget is, we have a change of staff down at the WPCA in the past few months. So typically this time of the year is when I meet with the chairman of the board and the director, go through their budget, but we've pushed that forward a couple of weeks. So we'll be meeting in the first week of June.
And just another question. I know it's right here somewhere, but what was their cost last year?
Their cost last year was
$5,800.
$1,500.
Okay.
Are we supposed to do some kind of, is it necessary for us to do some kind of motion and vote, or do we
Yes.
just, okay,
So you will make a motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen a specific firm to be appointed as based on 3 years.
okay. I wanted to be respectful of Steve because at the beginning of this conversation, he was prepared to make a motion for Hoyt. Steve, and we collectively kind of cut you off, and I regret that. If you want to go ahead and formalize that motion, that's fine with me. The option is
No, our discussion, in my mind, the two firms are very, very close. And actually the WPCA portion actually makes the Board of Ed and the town's cost lower with King and King. So financially, they are better for the Board of Ed and the town, not necessarily for the WPCA, but the Board of Ed and the town do better with King financially. And if they're qualified, I go for the less expensive option.
and so then that being
So I'll withdraw my motion.
okay. Thank you. And my apologies for from a Robert's Rules standpoint, technically we weren't supposed to have a whole bunch of dialogue when there was only one motion on the floor. We were actually supposed to get a second or let the motion die and then proceed from there. So that's a snafu on my part. But now that everybody seems to be okay with that, does somebody want to make a motion for King and King?
I'll make that motion.
So Steve's got the motion. Does someone have a second?
Rob Mann, I'll second that motion.
Rob Mann has a second. All in favor of recommending, this is just to recommend, all in favor of recommending King and Associates to the Board of Selectmen for this 3-year audit services contract? If I have that.
Agreement.
Agreement, okay. And Steve, you're okay with that being your motion?
Yes, that's fine.
And Rob Mann, you're okay with that being your second?
Yes, Aaron.
All right, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, so I'll take that as passing 5-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll move on to discussion and possible action, $4,695 to perform Thompson codification services. Is there someone who can speak to that item on the agenda? And Orla, you probably, I was going to say, Orla, you can probably discontinue the sharing of the screen because.
Oh, sorry, you're
yeah,
right.
No worries.
Oop.
There you
Okay.
go.
Okay, so this is a request. This is Amy St. Ange, Board of Selectmen. This is a request from the Board of Selectmen. It's something we've been tossing around, not tossing around, but considering as a board along with our town clerk, Renee Waldron. So what has occurred is Renee has applied for a $5,300 grant. It's the Historic Document Preservation Grant, and she has been told that it can be used to cover half of this service. So what this service basically is, it's through a company called General Code. And what General Code does is they go through our town ordinances with a fine-tooth comb. They categorize, reorganize, restructure the document for the Code of Ordinances. They analyze the ordinances to ensure that they are enforceable. They make suggestions, and the biggest thing is they make sure that our ordinances are in compliance with state statutes. Once they finish those two pieces to the puzzle, they create a searchable database for us. So if you've ever gone on our town website and tried to look up an ordinance, it's not very easy. It's not easily searchable. And so the platform they use makes it very searchable. It's interchangeable. They can reference state statutes. It's a pretty complex database. It's a 2-year project, so it's not going to all be done, and it's not all the monies. It's the total cost of the project is $9,995. It's 2 years worth. Renee's grant, which she should receive, I believe, by July, will cover more than half of the project, leaving us with $4,695. As a board, we feel that it's very, very necessary. I feel that the ordinances, some of them are a little bit wonky. They've been written by people that maybe aren't attorneys, and they've been modified year after year. And we have a volunteer staff that works on that Code of Ordinance book, and it's really not, it's not as it should be. But again, it's volunteers that are working on it, and we really want to bring it up to code. We want to bring it up to compliance with state statutes, and the Board of Selectmen unanimously believed that it was the right direction to go. So we're asking for $4,695 from contingency potentially. Or wherever the board decides we can take it from.
But so this would be from fiscal year 21 resources as opposed to fiscal year 22 resources.
Correct.
And so then that means, Amy, what you're describing, this $4,695, this is not the same thing as the $5,500 that was requested by the town clerk to do indexing and recording microfilm. That's different.
No, this is a separate grant that she brought to our attention that she was going to be able to use to help pay for this.
Yep, that's fine. Just wanted to make sure that we're talking about something different here.
Yes, it's something entirely different.
Well, I don't want to presume anything. I guess I'll just ask the question of Orla, if the Board of Finance were to approve this, where would the money for this come from? Is there anything in contingency for FY21?
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. We have enough money in contingency.
Okay.
Amy and I already took a look at it.
Any questions or comments on the merits of this request? By
Rob Wirge, I had a question.
ahead.
For Amy. Amy, have we looked into if other towns have done the same track, made the same investment? And if so, did it prove to help with better compliance to the ordinances that exist?
Absolutely. Well, we know that there are several towns. Ashford is one that has used it most recently. I believe Putnam has also used it, the services. It definitely brings you into compliance, but the best feature is the searchable database that they construct for you. Because it allows people to really search for specific categories. They can just put in a word and it'll pull up every ordinance that relates to that word. And then then they're able to reference statutes. We went through a whole presentation on it, and if it was something the board was interested in seeing before making this decision, I could certainly get a copy of that presentation for everybody.
Thank you.
But Ashford speaks extremely highly of it. They've just recently completed it in I believe the last year.
Any other questions?
No, Aaron, Rob, man, I just have a comment. As somebody that's probably more involved with watching regulation and things that happen in town than probably anybody in this whole town, I think this is a very positive thing. There's a lot of gray areas, I'll call them, with things that go on in town, and enforcement becomes difficult when you have gray areas. I think this is something that the average resident would be able to Google, like Amy says, and look for a specific word to find out if they're doing something right or wrong, along with, their abutters or their neighbors. I think this is a positive thing for the town. If you're gonna have regulation, you have to enforce it. You have to know what it is. And that's basically it in a nutshell. You have to know what the regulation is. You have to know what the proper regulation is, what the enforcement should be, what's right, what's wrong. And I think this is a step in the right direction, as my personal opinion.
Thanks. Steve, I know you were going to say something.
The few ordinances I've looked at in many detail over the past years, some of them are just, you just can't follow them, quite frankly. So a review and an update, I assume if they actually change the ordinance, the town would have to vote on them. Is that what would happen, Amy?
Correct. They would make recommendations. The Board of Selectmen would determine at that time to move forward with the recommendations. And yes, any real changes would have to go before a town meeting.
Because a lot of again, reviewing some of the ordinances in the past, some of them are just very difficult to understand. And probably at the time they were written, they knew what they were doing, but it was very clear. But sometimes that meaning has been lost over the years. So it sounds like a great idea.
One quick question. So once this transition, if this were to happen and they update all the records and so on and so forth, what about new ordinance? Do they review those for us before we actually put them in place, or does this drop off after 2 years? What do we talking?
There is a fee that's associated with maintaining the software and the database, where they will review new ordinances as they come in. The fee ranges from $600 annually to $1,200 annually. But that's after the 2-year term, after the first 2-year project.
Right, to keep everything, to get everything where it needs to be, and then to move forward in the
Then
right
to
direction.
maintain it. Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? I feel pretty good about this. I'd be willing, especially with Orla telling us that we do have resources available in contingency. It just feels like Amy's done her homework on this, and it feels like some members of this board are raising good points, very valid points that, in whether it's a town or city, wherever you need to know the rules, and the rules need to be known and enforced. And so if we have rules on our books that no one knows what they are and no one knows how to enforce them, that's probably a good idea to clean that up. and make it available, as Rob Mann says, so that someone can just Google it. They can find out if they see something or they hear something or if they know something and they wonder, well, what's the rules on that? And there's no way to find out what the rules are, then that's no way to operate our town. So if they can go in and find out what the rules are and then they can bring it to someone's attention and enforce the rules, that's a good thing.
And additionally, to build on that too, Aaron, thank you. They look at the history. So there is a history book of the ordinances and how those ordinances were arrived at. And hence why it takes 2 years, because they actually go through the historical data of the ordinances to determine the origins. And so anyways.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to say or ask or share?
I just want to say it must be a nightmare to be maintained by volunteers. So that's, I think this is a step in the right direction.
That's it. Volunteers are great, but if you don't do something for a living, if you don't get compensated for something, then I think we're all familiar that there's two levels of commitment. There's commitment where it's a job or it's a contract, and then there's a commitment where it's not a job and it's not a contract, and sometimes there's two different levels of expectation.
Well, they come and go too. That's just it. Even if they're 100% committed and they want to do an awesome job, and they do, it rolls over, and there's always going to be that new learning curve for another volunteer as well.
Agree. Rob, man, I want to be cautious with what I say, but I like the state regulation oversight, because many times I've delved into looking up things, and like I said, there's gray areas. I'm not going to specific subjects, specific things, but the state oversight thing, we're supposed to be an overreach. I don't know how it's worded. We're supposed to be something that's like an arm of the state. The state is our rock, and we extend from that. That's what our town's supposed to be. We're supposed to work under the state regulation, and if we want to add regulation to the state regulation, we can do that. But we're still supposed to apply that state regulation to everything. So that's why I think this is very important.
Anything else? I'll go ahead and make a motion to appropriate $4,695 from contingency for the purpose of retaining Thompson Codification Services. No, that's not the name of the company. It's to perform Thompson Codification Services, and it's with the company General Code.
Correct.
All right, so then let me clarify. I'll make a motion to appropriate $4,695 from contingency to perform Thompson Codification Services with the company General Code. Does that sound like is that correctly worded? Is that the wording we need for this? It sounds.
Sounds good to me.
Orla, does it sound correct to you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so that's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Rob Word.
So Rob Words has the second. Any discussion on this motion? Any discussion? All right, whenever we appropriate money, I always go around the table. Rhonda, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rob Mann,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
Rob Wurge,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. So this one carries 5-0. We'll move on to proposal from Board of Selectmen to reallocate staffing funds from conservation to inland wetlands in order to meet compliance timeline for MS4. Amy, is this something that you're able to discuss for us, or is this an Orla thing?
I can, well, Orla and myself can discuss it. So MS4 is the municipal stormwater regulation permit that we have to file. We're at least a year late. Marla's been working hard to attempt to complete the work, but she is limited because she's also performing her wetlands agent duties. So, so we're just making the request because there are some funds left in conservation to just reallocate those hours, that money. It was $6,320, I believe, to reallocate it to wetlands for the purpose of completing the MS4 work. If I said
And-
MSW earlier, I apologize. It was MS4.
No worries. And Amy, the number you gave was an estimate. Orla, do you know what the specific, would you happen to know what this, just so that if we make a motion, we can get the specifics correct?
Sorry, I don't have it with me.
Or at least what's your best guess so we can say not to exceed?
Up to 7,000, I'd say up to 7,000 or whatever is left.
I almost was positive it was 6,320.
I sent it to you in an email, Amy.
You did. And I thought I brought a copy with me. And I think I might have taken it out of my, me
Okay,
go
sorry. I didn't grab it before I left the office.
Any discussion, any questions or discussion on the merits of this request? Go ahead, Steve.
Vaguely remember something about this sewage reporting, I guess, or tracking was going to be done by the assistant in the selectman's office, Amy. It's been a few years since we talked about that, or at least I talked about that, but I vaguely recall that that was one of the duties there and one of the reasons for increased hours in prior budgets. If I'm wrong, that's fine. I
That has
vaguely
honestly
recall that.
that has never been to my knowledge. Kelly does assist with some of the MS4 work,
Okay.
but you have to understand that is extremely complicated. When Marla talks to me about it, it makes my head spin.
Oh, no, I understand that.
And the truth is, the plan will be in the future. We've made we've allocated money so that future MS4 work will actually be performed by J&D civil engineers.
Okay, because
So-
at one time I thought we were thinking it was part of the Department of Public Works or something, or,
It does, it is, but the reporting of it is really more, you need specialized, you have to have specialized knowledge.
Okay.
And yes, Kelly does do some of the MS4 work, but the actual reporting for the permit is much more, is higher level.
oh, okay, fine, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I did confirm the dollar amount is 6,322. And I would agree with what Amy is saying. I think we all underestimated the level of skill required to submit these reports to the state for MS4. So yeah, we really need somebody, and it's great that we have J&D who will be able to help us going forward.
And J&D does most of the reporting for, I believe, Putnam. I know they do, I believe they do Putnam.
I think they
And
do all the
Woodstock.
surrounding towns.
Yeah, all the surrounding towns, right? Okay.
Any other discussion or questions about the merits of this request? I'll make a motion to reallocate $6,322 of staffing funds from conservation to inland wetlands in order to meet compliance timelines for MS4. Does that sound like the wording that you would need from that motion?
That sounds good.
So that's the motion that I make. And is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Rhonda's got the second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All right, we'll go around the table. Rhonda, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rob Mann,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
Rob Wurge. Rob Wurge?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I'll vote yes. That's 5-0. All right, so we'll move on to Board of Finance member comments. Any Board of Finance member comments?
I just wanted to make one comment. I think I recently saw, Rob, that your mom passed away, and I just wanted to express my condolences.
Thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
Steve, again, it was wonderful that the referendum passed, and I know there was a survey done, and Amy, I don't know what the results were. I wonder if you could share that with us, if you're available.
You know what? They are available. Let me see if my computer will work right now. Give me a second. I'm just going to pull it up on my Facebook site.
I saw those. That was a great idea.
Well, I think we can refine it and make it better next go round. But it was a good first run. And I think it was, the results were very interesting. Let me just, give me just a quick second here.
I think as people see it more, and they see that they can see it more, the actual results, I think that you'll be getting more people that voted to get more involved with it, if you're following me.
Right, and they'll want to do the surveys too.
Exactly. I mean, the first time around, everybody's like, yeah, a survey, I don't want to deal with that. But then later on, when they see that, 600 people voted and only 100 did the survey, they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, we got to get that number up, because we really like to know what people think, So I think it was a great idea, Amy. I commend you for it.
Sorry, it's just taking me a little bit longer to find it here.
Amy, if it's not available, maybe just send a note out later or something.
Yeah, why don't I send everybody a copy of it?
You just send an email, yep.
It was extremely interesting.
It was.
So,
Like I said, what I'd be interested to see is if the numbers that your canvassers received are consistent with what the results were for the actual vote. That's my curiosity. So,
well, if anybody knows or didn't take the survey, there were 3 questions. One was on the overall budget, one was on the school side budget, one was on the town side budget, because a lot of people had expressed that in combining the two and eliminating the bifurcated budget, that was the one thing. Oh, well, the Board of Finance won't know what to do if the budget gets voted down. So we wanted to at least give the Board of Finance some direction should, and thankfully we don't have to worry about it, should the budget have gotten voted down. So the first question was on the overall budget, whether people thought it was too high, too low, or just right. Second was for the town side, too high, too low, or just right. Third, for the school side. Interestingly enough, there was a decent amount of people that thought that the budgets were actually too low. And on the school side in particular, it was an even almost 33, it was 33, 33, and 34. So 34% of the people thought it was too low, and then it was split between just right and too high. So it really reflected on all 3 questions the actual voting results, which was almost an even split. So.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you for that, Amy. Any other Board of Finance member comments? Any other Board of Finance member comments? How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Rhonda's got the motion.
I'll second it.
Rob, man, I'll second
Steve's got the second by a half a second.
it.
You can have it, Rob.
It's all good.
Nope.
Not that important.
We'll give it to Steve. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? This carries 5-0. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you too.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.